and they look at what it means to be engaging in God's work around the world. We'll have Andy say more about the camp there and what's going on. In an average year, Andy speaks to more than 80,000 high school and college students. That's public and private schools, with all kinds of topics, including apologetics, sexuality, culture, Christians in the arts and entertainment, world religions, and more. And we are glad to have Andy here with us on the show today, Tim. We're going to talk about teenagers today.
Andy, welcome in. Thanks for stopping by. Turn it around.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate your time.
Andy, as we get started talking about our kids, we love to talk about them, but we all know they're in that phase where they're asking and answering some pretty tough questions like, who am I? How do I fit in? And even the closest of kids can wrestle at times with connecting with mom and dad. And they just start looking to their peers for direction, and before long, even someone who feels pretty close can start feeling really disconnected, and maybe like hugging a porcupine every now and then or something. It's just like, what's happened between us? But Andy, tell us a little bit more about your ministry, and then help us move into this world of understanding our teens.
Okay, so we started the camp idea back in 2001, and we were just kind of set out to develop an outdoor adventure place in Colorado for Christians to come and enjoy whitewater rafting and hiking and biking and all the fun stuff that you can do in Colorado. So we developed this place called Kivu, Kivu. You can look it up online. We're Googled, Facebook, Twitter, the whole nine yards. So social media we've got under wraps. So if you just Google Camp Kivu, you'll see that we're surrounded by the beauty of Southwest Colorado. Well, as we were building the place and I was interviewing staff to come and work for us, I was interviewing on the college campus, and I was asking some of the leaders of the major ministries on the college campus, if a kid came to you and said he wanted to know Jesus, what would you tell him? How would you explain Jesus to him? Why do you follow Jesus? And the answers that I got were just really disturbing. I got things like, I follow Jesus because he makes me feel good. I think I follow God because it's the right thing to do. But nobody really could outline a really good gospel-like presentation. So I went back and to our committees, and I said, look, we got a problem. These are the best of the best serving on our college campuses, and they're having trouble explaining to me why they follow Jesus. What do you think the problem is? Well, as we began to research what's going on in the culture of Christian teenagers and college students, we found that over 75% of them, and I'm sure you've heard this statistic, 75% of students who are raised in Christian homes who go off to secular universities reject their faith by the end of their first year. And so, again, I'm going, oh, my gosh, what in the world's going on? How are we losing 75% of our kids? So I went around the country and began to develop a curriculum for students to go through to ask the tough questions about faith, assuming that they weren't rejecting faith because faith wasn't legitimate, but they were rejecting faith because they didn't own their own faith. They were living in the faith of their mom and dad or grandma and grandpa, or it was just the thing to do in their community, and when they had a taste of freedom, they decided, that's something I did when I was a child, but now I'm going to grow up and do something on my own. And so we're asking students questions in the backdrop of the beautiful, Colorado mountains, and we're saying, is there a God? Is there a God in the universe? How do we know? Is the Bible true? How do we know? Is it worth a behavior regimen where I'm willing to say no to certain, music trends or movie trends or some of the other things that we would classify as teenage behavioral issues? Am I strong enough to stand up and say no on moral grounds rather than just doing it because a group is doing it or not doing it? And then what's my play in the larger world at whole? What's my obligation as a believer who lives in America to the rest of the world? And so that's in short kind of what we're doing out at our place here in Colorado, and that's led me to begin to talk about these things with different teenage groups and Christian schools and different family groups, just to say, hey, this is what's happening at the ground level of the teenage world, and this is how we can begin to prepare to help our kids to be successful.
Andy, are you hopeful? I was recently up in Pennsylvania. I was telling Jim about this on a little expedition with some guys. We went up hunting, and we're hanging out. We went to a restaurant, and the waitress and I talked for a little bit, come to realize that she was a girl that I had actually gone to young people's with back in the day. And as we talked, she shared about her son who had overdosed and died recently, and she was devastated. And then next thing you know, she starts talking about the teens in the area. She said, Tim, it's dark. The bottom line is we're probably 50% of our kids are hooked on drugs. They're lost, Tim. We need radical surgery up here. This place is falling apart, and it was pretty devastating. It was a dark area up there. But what do you think about today's kids? I mean, everybody's saying, hey, they're running away from the faith. The sky's falling. Where are we? Are they sensitive to your message when they come to camp?
Let me put it this way. The first day that we opened the camp, I had 240 kids coming for a 2-week session. I put together this curriculum of what I call worldview and apologetics, which is it's a little bit different than what your traditional worldview class might look like, but it asks the same question. So I have 248 kids coming to summer camp for 2 weeks, and I got really scared the night before, and I was like, what kind of kid wants to come and listen to classroom lecture and be involved in small group discussion during the summer? I mean, I don't want this to feel like school. I want it to be really fun. So I went to my wife, who works with me at the camp, and I said, you got to put together a fun track. And so we have this apologetic track, and then we have this fun track. And so I introduced it to the kids the night that they showed up, 250 kids. I said, look, I know you guys when I came here to have fun, and I want you to have the best 2 weeks of your life, so this is what you can do. You can either choose to sit in here with me, and we're going to ask these hard questions about is there a God in the universe and what does it matter, or you can go jet ski, and you can go hike and bike and do all the other fun stuff that we have here. And so we handed out the cards, they filled in the blanks, and when we got the results back, out of 250 kids, 248 of them said, I want to talk about God. So this idea that it's just a dark place and kids don't want to have anything to do with faith and they don't want to have anything to do with this conversation is it's a fallacy. And what I'm finding is that when you dig a little bit deeper, you see that the across the board direction that I feel like youth ministry is going in the United States is to produce another party, so we can get more kids in the door. So we have big rock bands and we have, big worship sets and we have this lights and smoke and sound and games and, all the fun stuff that we do, which is all great. All the fun stuff is great. We like to have fun. But the time limits to put all that together doesn't leave very much room for the local youth pastor to put together a curriculum or a real meaty discussion to answer the questions that kids are asking. And so what they do is they just, largely they just sort of defer to whatever youth ministry in the box product is out there, and they don't really begin to investigate, even in their own community, what's going on here and how can I answer those things. So to answer your question, and make a long story longer, if you're asking me, is it a dark place? Yes. If you're asking me, do we need radical change? Yes. Does that mean that we turn our back on the kids that are addicted to drugs or that are, out there living in a dark world? Absolutely not. Somebody's got to be in there swinging the sword and helping our kids see that God is real and God is working in the earth today to bring reconciliation to the world. We've got to be continually giving them this message of hope, or else it's going to get darker.
All right, let's step in. Andy Braner with us today, along with Dr. Tim Clinton. I'm Jim Kress. More Turn It Around Radio live in just a moment here on AFR Talk.
When it comes to keeping our kids safe, we pay attention to the details. From seatbelts in the car to helmets and pads for sports, we make sure they're